Hello, my friend. Thank you for being here. Let me take you on a journey, a story told from my heart, the story of my life. It is not perfect. It is not polished, but it is real. It is what I found when the noise of the world faded, when the applause stopped, when I stopped running from myself and finally sat with the silence. These are the things I found in the quiet. I grew up learning early that life was full of expectations. Everyone seemed to want something from me. Be strong, be kind, be dependable, and never falter. I wore those expectations like a heavy coat in the summer, pretending I was comfortable while my soul burned underneath. I smiled when I wanted to cry. I gave when I was empty. I performed when I was tired. And then, one day, everything fell apart. I won't tell you it was one sudden, dramatic collapse. No, it was more like water dripping onto stone until the cracks deepened. Friendships slipped away. Love didn't feel like love anymore. My faith felt shallow, like words spoken but never rooted. My own reflection became a stranger I avoided. That was when the quiet came. At first, silence frightened me. Without the noise of people's approval, I felt lost. Without the chatter of busy schedules, I felt exposed. But slowly, like dawn creeping over a mountain, I began to see the gift hidden in the quiet. In the quiet, I met myself. I saw my wounds not as shame, but as places that needed tending. I touched my fears not as weaknesses, but as truths I had to confront. I remembered dreams I had buried under the weight of being who everyone else wanted me to be. And in those hushed spaces, I began to heal. I found that grief doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. Silence gave me the courage to listen to my grief. I cried in empty rooms, tears that I had held back for years. They washed me like rain falling on dry earth. For the first time, I let myself feel the depth of my losses, relationships that ended, people who left without goodbye, opportunities that never came. I thought they had broken me, but in truth, they were making me tender. They were teaching me compassion for myself. In the quiet, I also discovered resilience. You see, the world had told me resilience was about keeping a brave face, about never bending, never breaking. But that was a lie. Real resilience is softer. It is about bending when the storm comes and rising again after it passes. In stillness, I realized I was stronger than I knew, not because I was unshaken, but because I could rise again after being shaken. There were days I doubted. Days I whispered, "God, where are you?" Days I thought silence meant abandonment. But slowly, I began to hear a different kind of silence. The silence that holds peace, not emptiness. The silence where I sensed God closer than breath, whispering, "Be still and know that I am God." It was in those quiet moments that my faith deepened. Not faith as performance, not faith as routine, but faith as relationship. I began to pray differently, not rushing through requests, but sitting in stillness, listening, letting my soul breathe. I discovered that even in silence, heaven speaks. And I realized something else. In the quiet, truth rises. I had hidden behind roles: daughter, friend, lover, worker. But when the noise was stripped away, I was simply Lorado. And Lorado was enough. My worth wasn't in how much I gave, how well I performed, or how others saw me. My worth was in simply being a child of God, beloved and whole. The quiet also showed me the beauty of small things. A cup of rooibos tea steaming in the morning. Rain tapping gently on the roof. The laughter of children outside. The feel of the sun on my skin. These were not interruptions. They were reminders that joy isn't only in grand victories, but in everyday moments we too often overlook. I also found forgiveness in the quiet. I had carried bitterness like stones in my pocket, towards people who had wronged me, towards myself for choices I regretted. But silence has a way of softening hard places. I began to see forgiveness not as excusing the past, but as freeing my future. I forgave them, I forgave myself, and with that the weight began to lift. Then came the rediscovery of dreams. I had convinced myself it was too late, that missed opportunities defined me. But in the quiet, I remembered the girl who once wanted to write, to create, to tell stories that mattered. I remembered her voice, silenced under years of duty and distraction. And I permitted her to speak again. That is why I am sharing this with you now. This story is not just for me, it is for you too. Because maybe you too have been running. Maybe you've been pleasing, performing, holding it together while inside you're unraveling. Maybe you too fear the quiet. But let me tell you, the quiet is not your enemy. It is the friend who helps you hear your soul. It is the doorway back to yourself. Things I found in the quiet: grief that taught me compassion, resilience that surprised me, faith that steadied me, forgiveness that freed me, joy that humbled me, dreams that revived me. And most of all, I found myself, not a perfect version, not the version the world demanded, but the real Lorado. I will not lie to you, quiet doesn't always feel comfortable. It forces you to face things you'd rather hide. But on the other side of discomfort is discovery, and on the other side of silence is peace. So here I stand, not as someone who has all the answers, but as someone who has learned to listen. And my prayer for you, dear listener, is this. May you find the courage to enter your own quiet. May you discover what has been waiting there all along. And may you, too, come to say, I found myself in the quiet and it was enough. Thank you, my friend, for listening to my story, Things I Found in the Quiet. If something in my journey touched you, I invite you to walk deeper with me by reading the full book. Within its pages are not just stories, but reflections, life lessons, and whispers that might help you find what you've been searching for. Because sometimes, it's not in the noise of the world, but in the stillness of our own hearts that we discover who we truly are. Until we meet again, may you find peace, healing, and yourself in the quiet.